Welcome to Raw. My name is Tabitha Polenz, and Raw is real authentic women talking about topics that help to elevate other women. And I'm here today with my guest, Melana Carbary. I hope I said that right. And we're going to be talking about living small to live large. So Melana and I, we met because of some of the stuff that she's doing to support women, moms and daughters in finance. And I just loved what she was doing. And I thought, man, we need to do this talk together. And every time we get together and start talking, it's really fascinating. So I think that you ladies will love it as you watch this. Tell you a little bit about Melana. She is a CFP, CLU, CDFA, which is a certified divorce financial analyst. And she earned her bachelor's degree in business management from Heidelberg College. Additionally, Melana holds an associate degree in floral design and marketing and is also a certified yoga teacher. That's pretty impressive. With her CYT at 200 hours. And while she enjoys serving in the roles of advisor, designer, and yoga teacher, she is most proud of the role that she serves in supporting her mom during her battle with cancer. That's really precious. She also is now very proud to be an auntie of 2 beautiful nieces. Melana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me and hearing you talking about my mom. I'm sorry, I've gotten a little teary-eyed. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm so thankful for it. And it has really helped to shape me in so many ways, as she helped to shape me in so many ways before going through that battle.
Yeah, and you were telling me that she shaped you in ways that really kind of directed your career and what you do today, it's beautiful. Can you share that story?
I mean, really, it's about my mom's story and having this strong female role in my life and not really having the boundaries of, I was thinking about it just this morning, like I don't have these boundaries in my mind that women can't do things or that the men manage the money, and it was really all because of my mom. She was more educated than my dad, she managed the money. She was just a strong woman, and she never put limits on me. She was always so encouraging. And so seemed so natural for me to work in finance. I had no idea how male dominated this industry was. And I just was having that conversation today also, is that if there's women in this industry, they tend to be in support roles. They don't tend to be the advisor. Didn't have any idea of the challenges that might be ahead of me. And it has been a really interesting 15 years. And I did it. I'm very proud to say that, we've been successful, and I've made it in a sense that I'm still in this industry. But it had so much to do with her and that upbringing and seeing a strong female in the household who managed the money and took care of things and just never put any boundaries on me. When she was sick and going through her battle, she started volunteering at the food bank where they lived, which is about an hour west of here. And I remember she would hear these stories from these women that would come into the food bank, and it just would be like just the crappiest things happening to them and just awful. And my mom knew in the back of her mind that what, Melana and Ed could probably help these women, but we can't work with everyone, right? We are running a business. And I remember her saying, Melana, you have to find a way to reach more women. You have to find a way to get this information, out to these women, to women that need it. And when it wasn't very long thereafter that Ed came up with the Enlighten Her brand and that idea. And I was like, yes, we have to do that. So I feel like even today, it's a way to get that information. You don't have to pay our financial planning fee and be a client, but you can still get that, some of those tidbits that we've fought hard to learn and, ourselves and because of what we've gone through, but also what we've seen clients go through. And so just trying to get it out to more people.
That's wonderful. It's great to have a strong woman like that. And that's part of the reason why I developed Veda's Living, because not everyone has that opportunity. I, on the other hand, didn't have a strong man or woman, sadly, in my upbringing. And I kind of tried to figure things out on my own. But I know that there are so many women out there that, and even men that don't have this strong role model, both the male and the masculine, that kind of help them to see the world in the way they do. And we were talking about boundaries and how you didn't have them, right? You didn't think there were any boundaries. And I don't think there are any boundaries. But once you got into the world, you saw that other people have kind of these psychological boundaries of male and female roles. And what you guys are doing is to say, hey, let's throw those out the window. There should be no boundaries. And let's teach women about finance. And that brought us to the discussion today, which is living small to live large. And it's really about addressing the problem that people are kind of overindulging these days.
Yes. Yeah. We're seeing so much people that, they have so many goals and they're not focused on what's most important to them. And oftentimes they're not on track to reach some of those longer and even some of the shorter term goals because they're so mired in the day to day. And it's the cycle of spending. And it's a lot of times very mindless spending. And, people are filling their kitchens, their closets, their homes, other people's homes full of stuff. And, what's really valuable, and perhaps to those people that stuff does hold some value, but for most of us, it doesn't. And we're having a lot more conversations like that, really trying to lead clients towards values-based spending and really reflecting on what brings them joy.
I love that value-based spending. I have to say I've been very guilty. Amazon and just a swipe of send me this. It's so easy nowadays, and Amazon stock is through the roof, as we know. If you haven't invested in it, I don't think it's going away. But there are a lot of psychological reasons why people are doing this. Right? People are trying to fill some holes within themselves. People are trying to maybe buy their time because they're not doing the same social activities that they were before. There's a lot of reasons why people are doing these things.
Yeah. And one hand, we have so much more time because of just the changes, that came about in 2020. And so people are working from home. They're not out commuting. It's much easier when you're on a computer all day long to start buying. And we do need distractions. We might not have that person down the hall that we can go talk to anymore. And so we are distracting ourselves in different ways. The converse is true also, though. We are hearing so many people who are saying they are spending less, they're doing less. And so I think it almost seems that some people are trying to fill those voids in that time and space with spending. And then we're seeing other people who are finding other ways to fill it. And it's really become more of a focus on values and family time and getting healthy. We've heard of so many people, even in this cold weather, they're getting out there and they're walking daily. They're spending more time with their kids. I remember over the summer seeing so many people, so many families riding their bikes together up and down the sidewalks and playing catch in the front yard. And so, I've heard of people that are having dinner together again for the first time in years. They never could before because they were commuting. And so, yeah, we're seeing kind of two sides of it. And the spending problem, I would say, if anything, it was there before 2020 and all of the shutdowns and with COVID and that. We've seen in our practice where that has actually helped it. I think it has given people that sort of look inwards to say, we've had so much stripped away from us, so many things that we can't do or are told we shouldn't do. And so, what is most important and what are we willing to not give up?
Mm-hmm. And you talked about mindless spending, and this is kind of it, right? I think when we're really super busy and we're go, then there's this kind of mindless, impulsive sort of, I want that. And then it's done. And then all of a sudden, when we have to stop, when the world stops, then we start to notice all of these things. And you talk about minimalism as a solution to this. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so there's so many blogs and conversations and different groups you can follow on minimalism. And what I love about most of them is that they say it is about what it means to you. Minimalism is a movement towards simplicity. And so you'll see some minimalist homes that have 5 things in them and they're all white. That doesn't resonate with everyone. And so I want to just kind of talk about that right up front and just say that it doesn't have to be that. It's really about simplifying life, and it's about focusing your time, your energy, and your money on the things that are important to you. And you have to know what those are first. And oftentimes the path to figuring out what those are is to strip away, wipe that slate clean, and then decide what you want to add back in. So 2020 for many people gave us that opportunity. In March of 2020, when life kind of shut down and we all had to quarantine, it wiped that slate clean. It did for me something I was unable to do for myself, and that was to clear my schedule. My schedule was so packed. I was going from one thing to the next, to the next. Half the time I was running late, I was stressed, and I did not feel satisfied. And so having that just wiped clean was amazing. And then I've gotten to choose what I want to add back. And I can tell you my life 1 year later looks dramatically different. So for me, that's the minimalist side of time and just how you spend your time. But what ties into that is your environment also. And so I had already gone down that path of really simplifying my environment. But, a lot of people, maybe that's the next step ahead of them, is to take a look at your environment, your surroundings, and just clean it up, get rid of the clutter, get rid of the things that, aren't bringing you joy. That's a Marie Kondo thing. But it's so true. If it's not sparking joy and it doesn't have a utilitarian purpose, why do you have it? And one thing that really stands out to me that I learned in my yoga teacher training, in studying the yamas and the niyamas, was this idea that when we hold on to something that we're not using, we are withholding the use of that item from someone else. And so that really has made it easier for me to look at an object that I am not utilizing, that doesn't have purpose for me, and to donate it, to pass it along. And then I think about someone else getting use out of that. And so it makes it easier for me to keep cleaning out.
Oh, I like that. As you were talking, it reminded me of Buddhism, detachment. Like we tend to be attached to things and attach these feelings to things. And then you go, I don't want to let that go because there's so much energy associated with that. And really it's an inanimate object and it won't bring you happiness. Sometimes it can add value to your life because, it makes certain things easy. And sometimes it just adds space. If you've got like 500 t-shirts in your closet that you got for free at baseball games or something like that, you're never going to wear them all. And then there's, kids that could use some t-shirts from baseball games.
That's exactly right. Yeah. There's even something that you can get use out of. I find that gadgets or electronics, sometimes they're those things that, well, I could use it and I can get use out of it, but sometimes I feel like I work harder to make myself use it. Whereas I should just let it go, and I have just let it go. It's one less thing to do or to feel guilty about the fact that I should be doing this. Exercise equipment can be that way for a lot of people, right? We have all this exercise equipment. You probably see this. And then it weighs us down with guilt because we're not using it. And so just really trying to work through that and say, what are the things that have true purpose in my life and what doesn't? Like, what are the things that are, I use them, but I use them out of guilt, and get rid of them. And what happens in that cycle is that as you continue to get rid of, and you're constantly asking yourself those questions, is this bringing me value? Is this adding, is this sparking joy? Is this something that I use daily? Would my life be different without it? As you start to get rid of that, the natural next step will be that you're going to start to ask yourself when you're purchasing, what am I doing? I just got rid of all this stuff and now I'm on Amazon and I'm about ready to click buy. Like, what the heck? What am I doing? It's the idea is to clear out and not continue to bring back in. And I think if you make a commitment to it and you're just constantly really self-evaluating and asking yourself these questions, if it's when you're ready to click buy on Amazon, or if it's just that object sitting on your desk at home, does it have purpose? We're seeing more and more people really evaluating things that way. I'm doing it in my own life personally. My business partner, Ed, is doing it in his life and trying to share it with his family, his daughters, and just we're seeing a difference. We're seeing people spending less and having more money to put towards the important things to them in life.
Yeah, you talk a lot about value and the fact that there's an associated value. So, I mean, really kind of trying to understand what the value is for whatever it is that you're purchasing right now. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there is value. I mean, like I buy vitamins. I tend to be, a vitamin junkie in a sense. And to me, that brings value because I know that I'm supporting my body. But I also just bought a Keurig, and I don't even really drink coffee. I bought a Keurig in case I have company, which, we don't really have much these days. So, perfectly, guilty over here. And that would have been kind of a weighing the value of that and going, how often am I going to have somebody over to have coffee to offer that cup? Is there a better solution? And yeah, there is a better solution. I could have gone and get those, instant coffee, like tea bags looking things, and gave them that. And those could have sat in the cupboard for a year and cost me $3 versus, the $70 that I paid.
Yeah.
So
it's a perfect example.
Yeah. So what are some ways that people can start to, like, that's an example, but are there some criteria or ways that you can guide people to start thinking about how do you determine, because sometimes we think it's valuable, right? We go, well, that one cup of coffee I'm going to make for my sister when she comes over because she was upset that she didn't have it the last time. It'll make all the difference in the world. But really, is that real value? So how can people determine what real value is?
Yeah, I think the further you go down the path, you will actually start to have those internal dialogues like you just had with yourself, but it'll start to happen at the point of checkout. I could tell you that is definitely the case. I check myself all the time, but it took me a long time to get there. And so I just encourage people, when my friends and I are talking about this, or when I'm talking to clients about this that are completely overwhelmed, it's just to start small, to pick one closet or one room, or if it's money, so what we're talking about with physical objects, it applies to money as well. Some people, they have enough money, but it's all over the place, or they have enough, they think, they don't know where it's going. It's just starting small. It's picking up one statement and going through it and trying to understand where is your money going, or going through one closet. And the thing is, like with the physical stuff, you can I can't remember if this is Marie Kondo or if this is one of the other, there's so much information and so many recommendations out there, but one that I really like, especially for people who are getting started, is to get a big box and to start putting things in it. But you don't have to donate the box right away. You could leave that box sit in your garage for 6 months. The idea is you've gotten it out of your space and now you're seeing if you need it. If you go back into that garage and you dig that item back out, then okay, you've proven something to yourself that you went and got that object. You wanted that back. You had hopefully a need for it, which is why you went and got it. I did it a little bit more aggressively. Like I would just fill up boxes and bags and take and donate them. And what I realized was every now and then I would say like, oh, I donated something that I wished I kept. But if I donated one item that I wished I kept, I can guarantee there were 100 other items that I donated that I can't even remember what they were.
Yeah.
So, it's like you're going to get rid of some things along the way that you might look back and say, gosh, I wish I kept. I would say if it's very sentimental, those are the things to hold on to a little bit longer, or maybe just get a little chest and, put them in there and keep those things. Because they don't have purpose and you don't know where to put them or what to do with them, but you're not ready to get rid of them. And then tackle that later, get kind of exercise the muscle first, getting used to getting rid of the easy stuff, and then tackle some of those more difficult things.
I like that solution of having a big box somewhere in your garage or out of sight. Take those things, put them in there. I heard a long time ago that if you don't wear a piece of clothing for 6 months, you're probably never going to wear it again.
Yeah.
And it's literally one of those items that should be in that box.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and then that way it's an easier transition for the, if you do have that severe attachment to things, and it'll help
Yeah.
you to get over it.
It's a softer letting go.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And you know what? I've been cleaning out literally for 5 years. And I have a bag in my closet that I keep, and I just put things in it all the time. I'm constantly getting rid of stuff. Because you're constantly bringing stuff in your home. And so I think approaching this kind of a lot like exercise, a lot like money management, taking care of our health. There's not an end point where we stop doing it. I think approaching it with this idea that it is a process and it's ongoing, and there's not a destination. It's just constantly about trying to say, I want my space to be filled with the things that make me happy and that have purpose. By keeping a really clean and simple space, I'm saving myself time, I'm saving myself money. The old feng shui thing says that if you've got clutter in your home, you've got clutter in your head. So get the clutter out of your home. And I believe that. I think that there's a lot to be said for that, but it's not a destination. It's a constant process. So I've been cleaning out for 5 years, and I've been cleaning out my physical space and cleaning up my money for 5 years. And it's ongoing. I still have a bag in my closet, and I actually put something in that bag that I just went in and took back out because I said I'm not ready to get rid of it. And I actually had a use for it. I needed it. I went looking for it, and I was like, oh, that's right. I put it in that bag. Clearly, I need to get it back out. So I think people sometimes approach things with an attitude of like they want to be perfect at it from the start, and that I would let that go.
That's good. I like the disciplined approach of a thing diet. So we have like a nutritional diet, right? And then we have kind of an exercise diet and a financial diet and all these other different, in a sense, diets, right? A discipline approach.
Yeah.
And a thing disciplined approach, a thing diet. I'm going to call it that moving
Yeah,
forward.
I like that. That's a really good way to put it. You and I have talked about the spirituality before, and like that's so important to me also. And I go back often to in life we so often we for some reason we thrive, or we seek, I guess that's a better word. We seek freedom, but we don't understand what it means to be free. Like we think of freedom as just being able to do whatever we want, whenever we want, but we don't think about the consequences of that. True freedom comes through discipline, and it really is true. And so like I think about the financial stuff, I think about your home environment, your physical setting, and like it does take discipline to keep things cleaned out, to keep things clean, to manage your money, to, take care, to eat right, to work out. It takes discipline, but it's through the discipline that you have the freedom to splurge on dessert one evening, the freedom I'm going to Hawaii in a week and I'm paying cash for it. The freedom to do those things, it comes through discipline. And I think we're in a society right now that is almost like in a way kind of revolting against discipline and a schedule and doing this, and this, but I think what we're missing is that's how we get the freedom. That's how we get to a place, a utopia of sorts.
Yes, yes. It's funny that you say that because my son and I have had that conversation before too. Like when you have discipline and you are focused on doing the right thing that's good for you all the time, that feels good, right?
Yes.
But then when you splurge in the past, if you're splurging all the time, you're like constantly, have this guilt, riding over you. But when you're disciplined all the time and then you splurge at one time, then you can feel good about like, hey, that felt good. It was a little gift to myself versus like constantly doing something that wasn't healthy for you and then trying to get out of that negative cycle. But I like that. That's,
Yeah. So another thing I want to share that really helped me was challenge. I like a challenge. I like at the new year doing a 30-day challenge or whatever. So I had come across this challenge to clean one item out of your home a day for 14 days. And my cousin and I picked it up, and I think we ended up doing 10 items a day for 14 days. And we actually ended up cleaning out more than 10 items a day for 14 days. We got rid of so much stuff because of that challenge. So there's challenges like that. You can just find them online. You can just, Google a 10-day clean out challenge and you'll find a bunch of stuff, or just do it yourself. Just say, I'm going to clean out one thing a day and I'm going to do it for the next 2 weeks. And I guarantee if you get started, you will clean out way more than one thing a day for 2 weeks.
I like it. So you're just making me think about my closet right now. I have an old doggy dish in there and an old backpack hiking bag and just a bunch of stuff that I just keep stuffing up there and, thinking like, oh, maybe someday I'll use it, or maybe someday I'll get another dog, or maybe, and it's like, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? When I hear that, I think about, there are a lot of people that are looking at backpacking. They want to get into backpacking. The equipment is expensive. So, if you donated that bag, will someone be able to pick that up and go out and hit the trails? Who knows? There are a lot of people getting dogs right now because they're home and they can. And so, those two items right there stand out to me as items that, you holding on to them and not using them perhaps are withholding that use from someone else.
Oh, they're nice items too. So I think somebody will like it. So you've just encouraged me to get rid of them and clear out my closet.
And you know what? Nice items. I love donating, and I think that it's such a wonderful thing to do. But if you've invested in a nice piece like that backpacking bag, those can be very expensive. And so there is a really wonderful secondhand market as well for those items, to where, I think some people feel guilty. They feel like, well, I spent this money and now I'm just going to give it away. That seems kind of wasteful. And, but I think that selling it is a really nice alternative. Someone's still getting a deal. Someone who maybe can't afford to go out and buy that item retail, they're still getting a deal, and it's okay to make some money on the things that you paid good money for. So I've sold a ton of stuff. Actually, me and my business partner, Ed, we're just did a little bit of an office revamp, and we've sold so much stuff that we didn't need anymore. And we're not selling it for top dollar, but we paid good money for it. And so we're passing it along and getting, it's getting used by others. And these people have been so excited for the stuff they've come in and picked up from us. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a way to bring in some extra cash. So tying back to some of those financial things, bringing in some cash and then maybe using that cash to buy the things that you need or to save.
Yeah, it completely ties into the topic today, living small to live large. And if the purpose of you trying to live small is that you want to have funds to be able to travel more, or to, maybe buy a nicer car, even though that doesn't really tie into it, but that's kind of living large, right?
For a lot of people, yeah. It's about what's important to them. And so for a lot of people, having that nice car was one of those, if I have this car, it's not going to make them happy. And hopefully they know that. But it can be one of those goals, those accomplishments that it's it's a checkbox, and so it's not all bad, but it is what's important to you. If you want a nice car because your brother has a really nice car and you're trying to compete with him, I think that's a problem. If you want a nice car because when you were a kid or when you graduated high school or college, you said, I'm going to work really hard, and one day I want to drive a BMW, whatever it is, right? I think that's fine. If you've worked hard and you're financially able to do that, and you prioritize your money and you said, this is important to me, this is something I've always wanted to do, or I've always wanted to have, then go for it. But make sure your money's in order to do it first.
Yeah, it's your symbol to you for a goal reach. So I see where you're coming from, and that's a good differentiator. So when people start making these when they start embedding this new diet into their life, it's going to feel a certain way. There's going to be some changes. There's probably going to be maybe some apprehension initially, but then there's going to be some beneficial changes. I'm sure there's going to be big changes that maybe your bank account changes because you're not spending as much, but there's also probably going to be some like minuscule changes. And I know that when I was training people like in post rehabilitation who may have had some balance issues as an example, I would always tell them to pay attention to the little things. Pay attention to the day, because you always get out of the tub and you hold on to the rails, or you always go up the stairs and you hold on to the rails. The one day when you forget to do it, it's because your subconscious mind recognizes that now you're ready, now you're more stable. And to me, I bet you there's some things that happen when you start going on this thing diet that psychologically you go, oh, I didn't even realize that, and I feel better. Do you have some examples of how what people might be able to notice?
Yeah, I have so many examples. Thinking of the best one to give, my own personal life. When I after my mom passed away, I just realized one day I was shopping less. I would go shopping with my mom. And so realizing that I didn't have my shopping buddy was, I would rather have my shopping buddy and have less money in a house full of crap, to have my mom around. But it was one of those things that I realized, and that it was an eye opener for me, because we have triggers and people sometimes are our triggers. And so for me, like, that was just a really one of those points where I really realized like that was something I did because of someone else. And I really started evaluating me and, doing what I want to do or what's important to me, or just sometimes if I just had somebody who wasn't shopping, I just wouldn't shop, maybe she enjoyed it more than I did. I don't know. So that was one of those kind of a turning point for me, where I realized that people can influence us. I knew it kind of psychologically. I knew about like competing with the Joneses and things like that. But, in a good way, the people in our lives influence us. And this happens with diet, with exercise, with spending, with how we spend our time. And so, that was one of those experiences for me, for sure, where it just hit me one day. And I just realized that change. And we've heard from so many people. We've heard from clients that pay off credit cards, that are able to finally make the change, and they pay off those credit cards, and they say, Melana, I never, ever want to have that debt. Now that it's gone, we finally, we get it, and we never want it back. It's just these sort of aha moments. And I can tell you, more often than not, it's very subtle. It's very, you just one day realize, I cannot believe I used to buy so many clothes. I used to spend so much money in these different places. I used to have X amount of credit card debt. I would never, ever want to live life like that. But because I got out of the cycle, and I think that's the big challenge, it's getting out of the cycle and reflecting on the small wins along the way, because it can take a long time to get out of the cycle, especially if debt is part of your things, diet cycle, that doesn't go away overnight. And so yeah, I think the things that I'm thinking of tend to be, I guess, more big realizations when people have really finally broken that and just realize they have no desire to ever go back. And that's what we hear. It's what I felt. Once you break it and you just quit caring about what other people have, the size of their home compared to yours, what car they're driving compared to yours, whether they buy their clothes brand new from the designer store and you buy them at the thrift shop, you just quit caring and you start to focus on yourself. I think a lot of that noise, a lot of that, that drive to buy more, to do more, to have more starts to diminish. And if you can detect that in yourself as you journey through this, even those subtle day-to-day, when you just realize someone's out doing something and you don't care about it anymore, or when you're really getting there, when you look at what they're doing and it overwhelms you. And that's how I feel in a lot of ways. I love a lot of my friends, but I look at the size of the homes that they have and I just think, I can't imagine cleaning that thing. I can't imagine paying for that thing. I want nothing to do with that. That's you've really made it, and now you're past it and you're pretty good.
Yeah, no, I get, I think the thing that came to mind when you were talking about it is kind of like that stress reliever, when all of a sudden you like there's this weight like on your heart, there's this thing that's like behind, like a whip cracking behind you, and you're like, get up and go and do more and work another job and put in extra hours and whatever it might be, like this, this machine that just keeps you going and keeps you going and keeps going, and then in the stress of the machine. And when you start to eliminate debt and you stop spending and your bank account starts to fill up and climb, there's this sense of like relief and peace that come over you.
That is exactly
and
right.
yeah, and I think it's those, you know, I remember like every single, we all have kind of gone through it, I think, at one point in time, especially when you're younger, like everybody's like, first credit card, yay, you know, and then you're like, oh, big credit card bill. So when you start paying it off, you gotta go, whew, oh, I can relax, thank goodness, you know, I don't have to work that extra job or whatnot. But it becomes harder as you get older, especially with family and kids and that sort of stuff. It becomes more complicated. And then if you end up with medical bills and so on. So it's best to just implement these habits when you're younger before you get to that complicated life. Like simplify your life, minimalize your life.
Yeah.
Early on.
You can start it at any point, but like most good things, to start those habits the younger that you are, absolutely. We always say, you know, in our practice, the young clients get it the least. They can benefit the most, but they understand the benefits of it the least because they have time on their side in terms of allowing it all to work and to really benefit them long term, but they don't have time on their side in the sense of the lack of experience. Whereas our clients that come to us in their 50s, we see a lot of clients in their 50s that are in this cycle and they don't know how to break it, and they haven't saved enough for retirement, and they're starting to realize that the debt cycle, the you know, chasing the next thing, it's not working for them. And because they're getting close to retirement, and they're starting to realize that these decisions that they've made, it's now impacting their ability to retire and when they can retire. And you know, we're hearing a lot more people that are really, really fried. They're working in the corporate world, and there is more and more talk from this group particularly about wanting an early retirement. And that may just mean leaving the corporate world and working part-time for 10 or 15 years until they can, you know, really start living on their retirement assets and get on Medicare and things like that. But there's a lot more talk about this, but you have to prepare for that early on. And so starting young with these good habits and not overspending and saving your money and making good choices, so that it's putting you in a position when you're 50, 55 years old. And this thing called retirement that once seemed so far away is now 10 to 15 years away. You've put yourself in a position to have choice. And it's really fun to meet with those clients that have put themselves in that position and to talk about crafting a retirement that is unique. That does mean leaving the workforce, the corporate world early, and living life on their terms. And so I think to kind of wrap this whole idea of minimalism and these things and this thing diet, like what's the purpose of even all of that? And it's really about time. And so my business partner and I, he came up with this idea that, you know, we exchange our time for money, right? Because we go to work, and then we exchange that money for things. So if you take the money out of the middle, we are exchanging our time for things. If we require or desire less things, can we start to exchange less time and therefore get our time back? And time can be on a week-to-week basis. For some people, maybe that means going part-time at work. Time can mean getting out of that corporate job or that selling that business and getting out of that, you know, kind of craziness sooner and having more time to travel, to spend with family, to do the things that you want to do. So, you know, the idea of minimizing our space, our things, our finances, it is what are the focus, you know, should be as we do those things, what are we getting back in life? Because we are giving up things. And for a lot of people, those things are important and maybe define who they are. So shifting away from defining ourselves by those things and looking at our time and how we want to spend our time and who's most important to spend that time with, and shifting the focus there.
Yeah, that was profound. Like, I think we all know that on a deep psychological level, but when you go, we are remove the money and we are exchanging our time for things, like, and then that thing gets thrown away. So what's the value in that? Like, all those things, they're not around that long, but you run out of your time. Your life runs out, but the things are end up in the trash somewhere, and they'll last, for many generations. So it's really about experiences in life, and adding value to your own life. And how do you do that in ways that doesn't equate to buying more things? There's other ways to do that.
Oh, there are. So you mentioned my nieces at the very beginning, and so I had a pretty crazy year. I went from losing my mom, that was my person, my very best friend. I talked to her all the time, and that was life shattering, for me. And 11 months later, my niece was born. My second niece was born. And so in 1 year, I had this terrible loss, and then this just amazing little angel from heaven. And, I had such a profound sense of time and how valuable time is. And so that loss on the one hand, and I was glad that it happened when I was old enough to realize the value of time and the seriousness of my mom's condition, to be able to spend time with her. That year that my mom died, I took 9 weeks off from my job. And so, time, that was time. I didn't spend as much that year because I couldn't. I was busy taking care of her and spending time with her. And so, I exchanged a lot. I did not buy nearly as much stuff, but I had the most important thing. And so, after really reflecting on that, and then my niece being born, for me, like, if you talk about time and where I want it to be, it's with her. And I want to give her all of that, as much of my time, because I know as a daughter, like, that's the most important thing, an auntie or a mom can give you. So life has shaped me to really, realize the importance of that. But so many of us have had experiences. Maybe it's not the loss like I've had of a mom, but of someone or something else, that shapes us. So reflect on that and reflect on, those learnings and the gift of time in that process.
I think if we could sum this entire talk up, it would be that time is your most valuable asset, and you should learn to focus on how to have more of that to yourself and to give to others, so that when it comes time at the end, that you realize that you spent your time wisely and not spent it on things, and that you enjoyed your life more.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly.
Thanks.
I could leave that with everybody, and they could carry that nugget, and all of our clients, and that is what I would wish for everyone.
Thank you so much for today, and thank you so much for sharing your story, because that was deeply personal to you. And I think that everyone watching this is going to feel that. And the weight of what you're saying in the talk today about making decisions and understanding value, living small so that you can live large, it completely now at the end of this talk has taken on a very different meaning. And to me, it's about living a large life, and it doesn't mean about having things. So thank you for all your tips. This has been wonderful. How can people get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah. So yes, if you'd like to find me, the best 2 ways to find me, to learn a little bit more about our businesses and what we're doing, and to connect, would really be through going to our websites. So Burning River Advisory Group, and that website is Burning River, A as in Apple, G as in George.com. And you can read my bio. My business partner Ed's bio is on there. And read about the work that we're doing. We're very heavily focused on working with women, and we do comprehensive planning. So we're able to dive deep into some topics like we've gotten into today with our clients. And we are very focused on that values-based spending, money with purpose. Money is a means to an end. It is not the end. And then Enlighten Her is a second business that we've started up more recently. And so that's just enlightenher.com. And again, you can find us, you can connect with us through that site also. And that's really more of an outreach for the people that aren't ready or aren't able to become clients of ours to still get some good financial advice. So Ed's writing a blog. I think it goes out every week, every other week, and they've been really good. They're also very personal, a lot about his story. So definitely go to that website and get signed up for that. We do a lot of work for women going through divorce. That's under the Enlighten Her brand, as well as the teens and moms. And so that'll be a workshop, a web-based workshop that we'll be rolling out here. I think this in the next couple months. I don't want to put a time frame on that, but it'll be coming out soon.
Good. And that's one of the reasons why we were referred to Connect, because of this that you were doing there. And just so that everyone knows, we're planning on doing some workshops together with the community and that organization. Love everything that you guys had to say about it. Super excited to do some future, maybe yoga, finance workshops once we're past this COVID social distancing time. So definitely everyone will see you again on here. And don't forget, everyone, to connect with us on our Veda's Living YouTube channel, our social media sites, and stay tuned for more raw talk with real authentic women.